And Pope Francis will certainly be remembered for his mercy and compassion. And to talk more now about his life and legacy, I'm joined by Msgr David LiPuma, the rector and pastor of Our Lady of Victory National Shrine and Basilica. Thank you so much for being here this morning, and I'm sorry it's under these circumstances.
Melissa, thank you.
Msgr, let's start off with how you learned this morning about the Pope's passing and your reaction.
Well, I was actually at my brother's in Angola. After Easter, I wanted to take a little time today, and Channel 2 called me, and that's how I found out. And my first reaction was, God rest his soul, and what a gift to the church and to the world that we've had to experience these last 12 years. And we just pray now. I know he went directly to God, obviously, the day after Easter, which is amazing, inspiring. I think people really have to have goosebumps when you think about it, that on the day after Easter, the day after he came out, when he probably shouldn't have come out to see people, against doctor's orders, he was able to address the crowds at St. Peter's. And I think that was a final message from him to say, never give up, keep preaching the truth, keep loving, keep serving, keep being with the people of God.
And he really was the people's Pope, and to spend his few remaining hours with the people really does, certainly does give me chills, and I'm sure you
it does,
as well.
You know, and that's, I just prayed when I heard, and I said, you know, you got to believe in the Holy Spirit, you got to believe in the love of God, that he would allow Pope Francis to have that last opportunity and to be his witness, the persona Christi for the world, and then to safely bring him home and to rest peacefully in God's arms.
Msgr, you were sharing with me that you've had 3 interactions with him personally. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, back in 2019, I took a group over on a pilgrimage, and it was Pentecost Sunday, and I got to celebrate with thousands of priests, and at the end, the Pope came to all of us and embraced us, and so that was the first time that I actually got to shake his hand, but it was very, very brief. And then a few years back, I was also back in Rome, actually this past May, on a pilgrimage from Our Lady of Victory. And we were privileged enough, 2 of us, to be able to sit in the front row. And at the end of the audience, he came and he greeted us. And that was the first time that I got that one-on-one encounter. But back in November, I went back with a priest friend who was celebrating his 40th anniversary. And we were given front row seats again. And there's a tradition that if you meet the Holy Father and you bring a white zucchetto, which he wears, a friend of mine had given this to me if I ever had the opportunity to see him. And so on November 20th, in 2024, this past November, he came to me in his wheelchair, and I gave him the zucchetto thinking he would take it as a gift, and he placed it over his head, and then he placed it back in my hand, and he blessed me. So, sorry. It was pretty moving, and to have that experience, and now to have that relic, because he actually touched that, and I believe someday he'll be known as a saint as well.
Do you?
I have no doubt. I know it's quick right now to say that, but I do believe that he truly walked in the footsteps of Jesus Christ. He was what everyone should be. He was also the name that he chose, Francis, Saint Francis, embodied love for creation, love for people, the dignity of people, the dignity of human life. And, you know, for Pope Francis to really go out right from the very beginning and to be with the people, to choose not to live in the Apostolic Palace, to choose to live in the Casa Santa Marta, to be able to have meals with people, to walk amongst the people. He demonstrated truly how important it is not to be somebody that's up above, but someone who's humble and who serves. And I believe all of that humility, all that call to mercy. Yesterday, actually, on Easter Sunday at the noon Mass, I preached, part of my homily was words of Pope Francis. And it was all about mercy and forgiveness and welcoming people. And yesterday we had standing room only at the Basilica, and I wanted that message. I said, nobody could say, and I said this at the end, I said, nobody can say it better than Pope Francis. And it was, and you're looking out at these crowds of people, and you know that there's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of suffering. There's a lot of people that think they could never be forgiven by God. And the message was clear. No one, and that's Pope Francis's word, is outside God's mercy. And God is, his love is unconditional. His mercy is endless. And that was the message of his pontificate, to make people feel that they could always come back. They would never be turned away. And all are truly welcomed in the embrace of God. And that was Pope Francis. He just embodied that each and every day. And so today I think all of us, and just the timing right now in the church and in the world, it's a message for all of us. Again, about the fragility of life, but the precious gift of life, and the people that live on the margins of life. So many people struggle. And even I love that I'm at Our Lady of Victory because Father Baker,
Yes.
embodied serving those on the margins of life. Everyone was welcomed. He took care of everyone. And in a real sense, that's what Pope Francis did.
See that.
From the youngest to the oldest, he was there for everyone.
And you were saying that at the Basilica yesterday for services, that was standing room only. People were brought together on the holiest of days. Now, given the struggles that the Buffalo Catholic Diocese is facing, looking ahead, what do you think the next Pope needs to do to grow and strengthen the Buffalo Diocese even more?
I think that powerful reminder of constant renewal. This is Pope Francis established this year of Jubilee year, and it's Pilgrims of Hope. And boy, do we need hope right now in the Diocese of Buffalo. We know that, and we're working at it. And I think the renewal is so important because it's hard to see church buildings close. We know how much people are dedicated to their parishes, and I understand that completely. But at the same time, we got to remember that the church is bigger than a building. It is the people of God. And we need to come together more than ever in our diocese. That's our clergy, our religious, all of our people to say, you know what? Here's an example for us of how to truly live your life. Pope Francis really demonstrates for us that it's about the dignity of every human person, of making sure that people feel welcomed, accepted, and loved, and all the things the world needs right now more than ever. So I truly believe it is an inspiration for us, and I think a wake-up call. We sometimes get caught up in the minutia, and we get caught up in the negativity, and when you look at Pope Francis, it's always positive, always smiling, great sense of humor, and just was present. And if we could all just be more present to each other, more supportive, less divisive, and really come together. And that's what renewal is all about, and that's why we're pilgrims of hope, because it's not about just this world. It's set on the world that will never end. And Pope Francis, the day after Easter, resurrection, reminds us that the goal of all of our lives is not this world, but to journey through this world with great hope and trust, take care of each other, and one day to see God face to face.
Monsignor, can you walk through with me and with our viewers about what happens now as we say goodbye to Pope Francis, and what happens, how does this selection work with a conclave to find the next one?
Excuse me, my voice is a little tough this morning, but right now there's a period of mourning, of course, with any death. He will be waked in St. Peter's on Wednesday, I'm told, from the news, and people have the chance to come and view his body, to pray before him and pray for the peaceful repose of his soul. And then within 6 days, there will be the funeral. Even that, Pope Francis put his stamp on that. He simplified the funeral rites. And he made it so it's not a person of power and prestige, but that we're honoring a true pastor of the church. And the prayers and so forth are centered on that, and the resurrection. Then within 2 weeks, then the conclave is called, and cardinals come from all over the world. Now with travel faster, they can get there within that time period. And my understanding is that within 2 weeks when they set the conclave, which comes from the Latin with key, they will go into that conclave in the Sistine Chapel. The doors will be locked. They make an oath before actually the Last Judgment scene in the Sistine Chapel, Michelangelo's painting, and they stand there before that and they make an oath of fidelity to the church and of course secrecy, that they would not speak about anything outside. And they are truly cut off from the world, no phones, no nothing. The first day is a Mass of the Holy Spirit, invoking the Holy Spirit, and that's something we have to believe. I know people will always say there's politics and everything, but this is truly the Holy Spirit. It's truly relying. You got to believe that when you look back at our popes, they were chosen at a time when they were needed for their particular charism. And Pope Francis came at the right time in our world today. But they will at that point have that Mass, calling down the Holy Spirit upon them, and then they will have their first vote. There are 252 cardinals throughout the world, but you have to be under 80 to be able to go in for the election. I believe there's 138 that are eligible to elect. And when you think about it, 109 of them were appointed by Pope Francis, which is pretty amazing. And again, those appointments, he looked for places in the world where the church needed to be lifted up and to grow. And he also looked for places where he wanted to really affirm the Catholic Church. So who knows what's going to happen there, but only God knows, and the Holy Spirit. I believe the first day there's a vote. It has to be 2/3.
That was my question.
Yeah, so it's 2/3 majority. And then they will, if there's not on the first vote, then the black smoke goes up, and then they keep voting. I think it's twice or 3 times a day. I'm not clear about that for sure, but I think it's 2 to 4 times a day that they vote. After 4 days, if there is no one chosen, they take a pause, and then they wait a day, and then they reconvene. But usually, it seems in recent years, that was done within a couple days. And then the white smoke comes up, and people wait in St. Peter's Square with great anticipation for that Holy Father. And then he's, placed in his white cassock, and he steps out on the loggia over St. Peter's Square. And again, it's just in the anticipation of what this Holy Father will bring and who he will be. And all I know right now is Catholics throughout the world need to just pray and trust in the power of the Holy Spirit. Pray for our cardinals right now, because it's upon them, and they've been chosen, and this is their call. And we just pray that they listen, of course, to the power of the Holy Spirit, and they do what's best for God, for the church, for the world.
Monsignor David LiPuma, thank you so much for joining us this morning, for sharing your stories and your memories and your guidance with us about what we can expect as millions of Catholics around the world are mourning this morning.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you. We'll be right back after this.